Welcome to my cellar. I appreciate all the condolences and what have you that I got in comments. I've kind of condensed and we'll deal with it all at once, but I appreciate it. We will go here. My brother died about a year or so ago. You and Jim were on the road somewhere and you did a live stream. I caught you at the end of it. I needed that and I'm thankful for it. My brother was my gaming best buddy. He introduced me to chainmail, melee, and D&D. Type of people you are and times you come from saved me a lot of anguish that night. Thanks for all that. Well, I'm real glad I was there on that night when you needed something. If it wasn't me, it'd been something else, I'm sure. But you're welcome. And we talked about dice and what do you keep them in and all that. So we got a few shots back on that one too. I bought a small treasure chest box to keep my dice in. It's the right aesthetic for me, and to hear them roll around inside of it is quite satisfying. I know exactly what people talk about. The sound of dice clattering across the table, or falling down a dice tower, or whatever mechanism. There is something about it. Gary made a comment a long time ago about DMs don't really need dice after all, but we do like the sound that they make when we roll them. Dice, from a DM's point, the parties fiddle-fawing around and just roll a couple of dice randomly and they perk them right up. The sound of dice, yes. Somebody will do a paper on that someday. All right, another condolence. And the other day he said on Facebook that the worst part of getting old is losing your eyesight, hurting yourself while you sleep, not being able to do things you used to do. I pass. That's the worst part. Okay. What he said was it's when your friends. I somehow cut and pasted this, screwed up. But anyway, the point he was making is the hardest part of getting older is watching your friends precede you, whether they're older or younger. It's still each one's a little chip off the iceberg, and you become a little more alone. Pretty soon, you'll just be an ice cube. There was lots and lots of condolences, and for all of them, I'm very grateful, and I thank you. I go back to dice. I carry my dice in a wooded box that I had engraved with a dungeon door slightly ajar with the text, "Old School Gamer," next to it. The interior is lined with a dark green felt, and it brings me a lot of satisfaction to hear the dice rattle around inside that box. Yes, yes, there we go with that sound again. And this, I even though this is a kind of a duplicate, it's not, because the sound of dice rolling in a box lined in velvet or felt is nothing like rolling around just inside a wooden cigar box. Nothing whatsoever. One's a lot more sophisticated, the other one's kind of scary. Let's see. Alright, just we came upon a new online RPG game that is very similar to an adventure you ran and spoke about in one of your past videos, where the players were turned into mice, called Small Saga. It's a story set in the world of animals that are always underfoot, pulling inspirations from the likes of Redwall and Watership Down, as well as Final Fantasy. This is a description from the article, Small Saga's immense charm lies in the kingdom of Rodentia and its citizens. The game uses RPG tropes to turn London into a fantastical world filled with characters crafting things as little as tools and as big as entire buildings, and made from everyday human items. Furthermore, one of the great joys of Small Saga comes about when you first board the game's take on the beloved airships of Final Fantasy. Okay, I don't I meant it. Yeah, that's just his sentence. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. Something about the airships. Um, okay. There's a couple, three differences here I'd like to point out. Um, this is an immersive anthropomorphic game. You are a small creature amongst other small creatures, and you adventure and advance and suffer setbacks as a small creature, and that's cool. And I really like that idea. I've talked about others of that ilk before. I like that idea. Just to be a bit pedantic, mine is much more fish out of water. They go into the tavern as human or human adventurers, and they walk out the back door as mice. And they haven't never been mice before. As a DM, you can have just all sorts of fun with them figuring out how to be mice. And I like to think it's for their own good to get them right away thinking about I'm small and I'm in a small world beneath the level of human consciousness and vision for the most part, but not the dog, not the cat, not the rooster, all of whom could be my enemies. And now you're trying to figure out how to fight a rooster. But it sounds like an interesting idea. Certainly, an immersive anthropomorphic game like that is an interesting world to delve into, and I think you could find a lot of fun in something like that. Because there, you just really do immerse yourself in something totally not you. It's like you're playing it's not even like playing Watership Down or Avatar. It's beyond both of those. Great. Okay, now to the commenter smartass. They got all up in my face about 0 levels, and I know who you are, so quit busting my chops. Every citation you made was years after I left the hobby. So don't give me that bullshit. I don't care what happened during that period of time. It's not the game I play. Yeah, technically, okay, they were there. I'd rather think it was probably some crap TSR was just trying to kiss the public's fanny or sell the latest books or whatever, and got involved in all that crap. And they didn't stick to their guns. They didn't stick to their principles in the game design, and they kowtowed. But that's just my opinion. It was a wonderful, wonderful comment. I totally miss hiring NPCs. NPCs are the most sadly, sorely neglected part of or aspect of a role-playing campaign. If you let them be, if you ignore them. As a DM, the presence of NPCs, which are generally experts, high-level cleric, very skilled fighter, beast tracker extraordinary, whatever, that you hire, and usually for a hefty chunk of what you're going to make, enable the DM to put any dang thing in his game he wants. Because Nothing is insurmountable if there's an expert that can be consulted. Now, I'm not saying throw in a whole bunch of stuff like that, but it enables you to weave it into the context of your campaign. It gives you the opportunity for side quests. Side quests are great. If you say you've got a group of 5 or 6 and you never play with less than 5, say, only 3 or 4 can get together, do a side quest. Do it with the hazard of the consequences, but do a side quest if it can be done in a session. Now you got chance for new loot, more experience, perhaps some magic. All because NPCs are there. No item that you leave to be found anywhere is now beyond the reach of the players, because if they can't figure it out with what it is, someone else can, and they'll have to side quest over, and it might cost them a lot of money, but they might find out it's quite worth it to find out what it is, or to do it. A weapon, to find out how enchanted it is. You found a weapon. I don't tell them, oh, you found a +4 sword during the game. No. You've come across a sword extremely well made, just feels right in your hand. A special. That's it. Don't give them all the details. When they start toting up, when they start maxing a couple times on damage, they'll figure out what do they have. Or you can take it to an expert. You find an ancient leather sling, ancient design, marvelously supple leather, though it's not a day over 100. And there's magic in it. How do you find out? Well, you go find a wizard and you pay him to tell you what it is you have. And that's how they make money on the side. And that's how you, as a DM, get to drain money out of the campaign, paying for these things. And when you have these things available to spend money on, you can be more liberal in the treasures that they find, because you can still siphon them off with this whole new level of expenses. Whole new gamut of side quests you might take. Whoops. Just went from a 12-sider to a 20-sider. Bleak. Let's see. Okay. This next one. Long question. But yes, I have a comment response. Would I be so kind as to comment upon the discovery of D&D's inclusivity language alterations in core rules that WotC... in core rules, and that WotC has been making changes to the rules without issuing errata. Gasp. All right. Now, this is one Teos Abadia, also known as Alpha Stream, has compiled a list of changes and shows some lovely comparison graphics of the original 2014 5th EA text alongside the edited versions. Often the language they found troublesome was deleted, but some terms were swapped for others. Well, yes, there's been a lot of changes. Barbarians are now called invading hordes. Savage foes are changed to brutal, merciless, or ruthless. Nobody's called a savage. Madness or insanity is removed or changed to other words like chaos, which I find that one's absolutely bullshit. You can't say that the evil wizard's insane. Come on. Somebody can't be made insane by being attacked by a mind flayer, and then on a side quest to find an NPC that can bring your party's cleric's mind back to normal with some lingering effects, but revive him. All right, just a minute. I got off the track there. Usage of orcs as evil foes has been changed to other words like raiders. Terms like dim-witted and other synonyms of low intelligence replaced with words like incurious. Language alterations surrounding gender. Well, there's been a lot of issues with gender. Fat removed or changed to big. Use of terms referring to slavery reduced or altered. Use of dark when referring to evil changed to words like vile or dangerous. If you have issue with the inclination, you may... All right, no. I didn't have inclination to go and read the whole thing. And other than I really have a problem with the insanity. That's been such a big part of fantasy writing. You know, somebody's insane and they're doing horrible things, and come on. However, that said, the rest of these, I can see why they're doing it. Our language evolved. These were written 50 years ago. Our language evolves really quickly now because of the internet. We don't say methinks and beseems and gadzooks and words that clearly are identified to the 18th or 19th century. Words' meanings have evolved. You have to recognize that, okay, Native Americans were demeaned for centuries. A long time, maybe along 2 centuries perhaps, or close to it, by being just lumped together as Indians. When there were many different tribes and cultures and had different practices and in some cases worshiped different deities, hunted different animals, had different diets. And they are beginning to get some of their cultural dignity back. Some of the other wording that has been changed is more sensitive to today's usage and understanding of common English words. In my lifetime of almost 75 years, I've seen a lot of words change meanings, change impact, culturally change. The Brits use a few words rather casually, especially if you've watched The Crown, that we would flinch at here. they change. And WotC is doing, I would suspect, a mostly good thing in recognizing that the language evolves. Language is not just the sounds we make with our lips and tongue and the roof of our mouth and teeth, but what that sound means and what it means today as opposed to maybe what it meant 50 years ago. I'd like to think we've come a decent, nowhere near enough, but we have come some way in my lifetime. I understand why they did it. Next. My new dice bag is a mimic. How do you know? How do you know that your dice bag is a mimic? While you were away out of the room, it could have taken anything out. You don't know, I guess, until you stick your fingers in it. If they come out stumpy and bloody, I guess you were right. Okay. When is libel not libel? Libel is not libel if it is regarding a statement that is found to be factual. Several of the parties of the new TSR bullshit and Dungeon Hobby Shop and Wizards of the Coast lawsuits and bankruptcies and all that snarly mess. At one point, someone identified one of the parties involved as a crook. And the party involved turned around and sued. He said, "No, I'm not a crook. That's libel." And now a document has surfaced from that individual's home state that shows that, yes, he is indeed a convicted criminal. In this state, this is in the way their courts are structured, it would be like a low-grade felony. But it proves the statement or the claim true. Interesting to see how this all shakes out. All right. You got to treat yourself to a Christmas present. The Lost Adventures. I'm telling you, it started out as something I did a long time ago, and it got buffed up and polished up and beefed up. And there's three ways to play it: old school, first edition, and 5e, all in there already. New monsters that have never been seen anywhere before. Stuff that I created and stuff that Don created. And an environment that has to be endured, that I'm willing to bet that less than 1% of people that haven't played it before have been exposed to and had to deal with. Pull-out maps, color. It's gorgeous. It's a limited edition, and I think I've signed plate number one. I think I've signed 150 plates, and there's only going to be 300. So you ought to go to Wizard Tower Games and check it out. Treat yourself for Christmas. I hear inflation's down. I guess I'll see you next week. Dodada Gobi. Hello, and welcome to my cellar.
The curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs. Still quite a feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Last man around when them rates went down. Calling Gary in that Lake Geneva town. Hey Gary, it's an awful mess. Let me edit, we'll have success. D&D and Dragon Magazine.
He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar.
Magic missile, it's a mortar shell. Make it hit in the first level spell. Brought psionics to the game to attack that wizard's brain. DSR and fantasy, collection of micro armory. Titan with tramp under a tree,
High as could be. He's the curmudgeon who wrote about the dungeons. Now he's the feller, live from the cellar. Talks about D&D and old school RPGs, but he's still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Still quite the feller, the curmudgeon in the cellar. Curmudgeon.